Dear students, welcome to the lecture series of auditing. Today we shall take up unit 2nd, and under unit 2nd we shall continue our discussion on the audit process. Under audit process we have already learned in detail about audit programs, audit procedures and audit planning. In continuing our discussion on the audit process, today we shall put our emphasis on the audit evidences which needs to be collected during a audit process so that we can authenticate and support the audit which is being conducted. So, they are the evidences which are going to help a auditor to make a planning for the audit work, and they are the supporting or evidentiary documents that audit is being conducted in the manner it was prescribed. So, the objective of today's lecture is to understand what do we mean by audit evidences, what shall comprise of audit evidences, how to accumulate or gather these audit evidences, and what is the significance of various audit processes which we are going to apply while conducting the audit. So, let us start up our discussion on the audit process in relation to the audit evidences. Under audit evidences, the first thing which we need to keep in mind is we need to have an audit notebook. Now, what is this audit notebook and why it is being necessary? An audit notebook is usually a bound book in which a large variety of matters observed during the course of audit are recorded. So, a bound book is generally with the auditor who records the transactions chronologically as he advances in the audit and record the significant areas which he has noticed and all the material issues which are being taken care of during the audit. All the statutory, legal and accounting aspects are being taken care of. It is a part of the performance record of the auditor. It provides a valuable help to the auditor in picking up the links of work when the work is temporarily stopped. That means when it is being recorded date wise or in the manner being prescribed, then it is very easy to restart the work if there are gaps in the audit, and serial wise work can be performed with the help of audit notebook. It serves as a guide in framing audit program in future, because next time when somebody is doing the audit or any team member is conducting the audit of that premises, the audit notebook serve as a base that how we have to proceed further in the audit, what are the significant areas which needs to be covered up. Audit notes, whether kept in a book or in loose sheets, should bear a reference to the particular item of work in the audit program. So, we will mark the audit program as this is note 1, and under audit notes we will write note 1 in relation to the audit program number such and such and write the detail of that program. For example, the opening and closing balances are to be verified. So, under audit notes when we prepare this, that how it is being conducted, who has taken care of, we need to ensure that same has been covered up under audit program under point number 1 or 2. So, a cross reference would be there under audit notes with relation to audit program which is being conducted, which is being compiled by the auditor to conduct the audit, and it serves as a base for the team members. Some significant matters which should be kept in the audit book are audit queries not cleared immediately, mistakes or irregularities observed during the audit, that means such mistakes are being detected and they are being referred for the preventive measures, they need to be recorded over there. For example, certain accounting entries being done incorrectly, we will record that in the audit notebook and will make the correction or make the correction being done by the management. Important information about the company which is not apparent from the accounts. So, such significant information is being written in the audit books. Now, next important aspect is audit evidences. SA 500 governs audit evidence. It refers to any information, verbal or written, obtained by the auditor during the course of audit and to arrive at the conclusion on which he bases his opinion on the financial information. So audit evidence is the supporting or the documentary evidence which helps us to give a true and fair view on the financial statements. So it in a way helps the engagement team to carry out the work. It serves as an informative tool, and this information can be verbal or written. So the auditor should obtain sufficient and appropriate evidence to draw the reasonable conclusions. Now here sufficient and appropriateness has been defined as: sufficient refers to the quantum of audit evidence is obtained. That means here we talk about the quantity, that is quantum. It should be sufficient enough to support our decision that particular set of creditors are being inquired and the confirmation of the creditors are being taken care of. Similarly, appropriateness is to be ensured, and appropriateness here relates to the quality. Quality means relevance as well as reliability of evidences. That evidences which we have accumulated or gathered for carrying out our audit should be reliable, they should be relevant. For example, if we have taken up the bank confirmation, the same must relate to the financial year for which we are conducting the audit, and it should be reliable. Obviously, when a bank confirmation is there, it will be a reliable feature of the audit evidence, and we can verify the balance being outstanding with this confirmation being taken care of. So auditor should assure that the evidences which he has collected are sufficient as well as appropriate. Qualitative and quantitative aspect both are to be ensured. Now next is that factors affecting auditor's judgment as to what is sufficient and appropriate audit evidences. We know that the audit evidence to be collected should be sufficient and appropriate. Now here we are discussing that what are those factors which affects auditor's judgment that whether the audit evidence collected is sufficient and appropriate. So the first one in the list is the degree of risk of misstatement, which may be affected by nature of item and adequacy of internal control. So it is going to play a major role under the said information. Second is the materiality of items involved. Thirdly, the experience gained during previous audit. Fourthly, the results of audit procedures performed. And fifthly, the type of information available. Now let us do an exercise where we need to define the audit evidences. First one is audit evidence decisions are to be taken up. That from which source the audit evidences are to be taken up and to which extent it is to be taken up and for what relevant assets or liabilities they are to be ensured. So while conducting the audit of financial information, all audit evidences in relation to income, expenditure, assets and liabilities are to be collected, are to be verified, and they needs to taken care of because they form a significant part of the evidences that we have conducted the audit, and the prescribed process has been followed. The planned audit is being conducted in the manner it was being designed, and eventually when audit evidences are being collected, the flow of the process of audit is fast, is smooth, and the chances of material misstatement is being reduced. It may not be eliminated. So in a way, audit evidences may help to overcome certain inherent limitation, and we can pace up the audit plans and do the audits accordingly. Secondly is the persuasiveness of audit evidences. Persuasiveness here means that they are in the system, they are to be taken care of, they need to be applied and documented. Then competence consideration. So let us learn about them. Audit evidence decisions. So audit procedures to use. Specific procedures should be spelled out for the instruction during the audit. Then sample size. How many items should be tested for each audit procedure. Items to select, that is determine which item in the population should be selected, and timing. Timing can vary from early in the accounting period to long after it has ended. So these are the important or peculiar features of audit evidence decisions. Now next is persuasiveness of audit evidences. Audit evidence is an information used by the auditor to determine whether the information being audited is stated in accordance with the established criteria. So two determinants of persuasiveness of evidences are competency and sufficiency. Competency here means the degree to which evidence can be considered trustworthy, and sufficiency here means the amount of evidence is enough to form a reasonable opinion. The third one is competence consideration. So here the factors which are going to affect the competency is relevance, independence, effectiveness of client's internal control, and auditor's direct knowledge. So let us highlight each of them one by one. Here relevance means that it must pertain to the audit objective being stated. Secondly, independence. Independence here means evidence from outside the client is a strong form of evidence, because the internal sources may not give that much of the relevant data as from the external sources. Just we take the examples of the confirmation. Debtors confirmation, creditors confirmation, and bank confirmation will be a stronger audit evidences rather than the verbal confirmation by the management or the governance. Effectiveness of client's internal control. So good internal control can mean better information, where systems are in place and controls are in place, they are in existence and are effective. It is very easy for the auditor to take care of the audit evidences. So information can be gathered in a better way, which will pace up the audit procedures which are to be carried out. Auditor's direct knowledge. Auditor determination are stronger than client's comment. Here we want to say that rather than relying on the governance which are taking care of the preparation of the financial statement, the decision and the determination of auditor to ascertain whether the financial statements are true and fair and they are being prepared where there is no chances or lesser chances of any material misstatement being there on account of any fraud or error. So both primary objective and secondary objective of audits are being complied with or are being met up by the auditor rather than any comment by the client in relation to the substantive or compliance procedures to be taken care of. Next one among competence consideration is qualifications. Individual is a qualified source. Degree of objectivity. Objective evidence is stronger than subjective evidences. Timeliness. Balance sheet account evidence is better when it is collected around the date of financial statement. Income statement evidence should sample the entire period. Now here we want to say that balance sheet accounts are assets and liabilities. So any audit evidence being collected for the balance sheet accounts, that is for asset and liability, they should be collected near the date of the financial statement, that is near to the ending date or as on the 31st March, where confirmation in relation to the closing balance can be taken care of. And in the case of income statement evidences, that is evidences in relation to incomes as well as expenditure, since income and expenditure is a year-long process. So rather than going for audit of each and every voucher, we need to go for the sampling, and the sample evidences are being accumulated for the entire period. So here we are emphasizing on how to collect the audit evidences for the various accounts which are being there in the financial statements. Now, what are the types of audit evidences? Let us learn them. Audit evidences are broadly being classified into two segments. One is the nature and other is the source. On the basis of nature, the audit evidences can be visual, documentary or oral, and on the sources basis it can be internal or external. So nature, again we will classify them as visual, documentary and oral. Let us learn about them. Here visual means which are acquired by auditor with his vision. Documentary means which are in the written form, and oral means which are verbal in nature. So on the basis of the nature, these sort of audit evidences can be accumulated while conducting the audit of any business entity. Depending upon source, we are having the two types of audit evidences: internal, which originates within the organization being audited. For example, sales invoice, debit and credit note. These are the examples. Further, the list can be inclusive list. External, which originates outside the client's organization. Here it can be purchase invoice or any confirmations which are being taken by the client from the creditors or debtors. Then confirmations are there. Customers confirmation is in relation to confirming accounts receivables balance, vendors for accounts payables balances, bank confirmations for checking accounts and loan balances, attorneys they confirm the contingent liabilities, and inventory agents confirms the consignments. So these are the confirmations which are serving as the base of audit evidences for conducting audit of any financial statement, so that a expression of about the truth and fairness of the financial statements can be given. Now, what are the audit procedures being applied to obtain the audit evidences? Again, the two important procedures are compliance procedure and substantive procedures. Substantive procedures consist of test of details, which includes test of transactions and test of balances. So it is more related to the arithmetical accuracy, where transactions are being tested in relation to the date, amount and particulars. Secondly, analytical procedures, where the significant ratios are being computed and it relates to the verification of trends. So these procedures would fall under compliance procedures. Here analytical procedure is being explained in detail. Audit studies relationship among data. Unusual fluctuations occurs when significant differences are not expected but do exist, or when significant differences are expected but do not exist, required during the planning and completion phase on all audits. So these are the analytical procedures. Now re-performance is again a sort of audit procedure we apply to conduct or to take up the audit evidences. Re-performance involves rechecking a sample of the computation and transfer of information. Rechecking of computation consists of testing mathematical accuracy. Rechecking of transfer of information involves seeing if information is recorded consistently in the accounting records. So it can also be consist as a substantive test. Now when coming to the compliance test, they are the tests to ensure whether internal controls are in place and they are effective or not. So compliance tests are also being taken care to get the confirmations or the audit evidences which are internal in nature. So when performing the audit and gathering audit information in an audit, we need to carry out these procedures so that appropriate and sufficient audit evidences can be collected to support our audit planning and performance. Having understood the significance of audit evidences to perform the audit program in accordance with the audit plans and procedures, now another important aspect which we are going to learn under the audit processes is the routine checking. We shall have its discussion in detail in our later lecture, but let us have an understanding of what are the routine checking and why it is being important part of the audit process. So here routine checking means checking of arithmetical accuracy of books of original entry and ledger with a view to detect clerical errors and frauds in a very simple nature, because though the overall objective of the audit is to ensure about the truth and fairness of the financial statement and to express an opinion that no material misstatement is being present in the audit being conducted. Where a financial statement is being audited, and to ensure that it is being free from the material misstatement, the secondary objective of the auditor is to ensure that there should not be any fraud and error. So detection of fraud and error is again become an important feature of audit. So in order to detect and prevent the mistakes or errors, routine checking is being conducted. Here we ensure that arithmetical accuracy is being maintained, and books of original entry, that is journals, sales books, ledger, are being checked up with the ledgers, and we detect the clerical errors as well as the frauds. Clerical errors means errors of compensation, errors of omissions, error of commission, then compensating errors and errors of principals are also being taken care of. And fraud, that means the intentional errors are also being taken care of. One way clerical errors are unintentional, they are the part of the misrepresentation or the misstatements, while frauds can be intentional and they relates to the such errors which are being done for a intentional mode, that means stemming and leading, window dressing. These are the types of frauds which are to be detected by the auditor under the routine checking. So, in our later lecture we will discuss in detail about routine checking as well as the test checking. Now, we will summarize our discussion on the audit process which we have done today. Under audit process, we have learned in detail about the significance of audit evidences. The two important features of an audit evidence is the appropriateness and sufficiency of the audit evidence which is to be collected while conducting the audit. We have also learned in detail about the audit procedures to be applied so that the audit evidences can be accumulated and gathered. That means compliance procedures, substantive procedures, analytical procedures and re-performances are being learned in detail. We also have a insight of the routine checkings under the audit process. In our upcoming lecture, we will take up it in length, that what are the routine checking as well as the test checking. So, we are concluding up our lecture of today. Hopefully, there has been a happy learning. Thank you.